I'm Danny Dyer, and this is the Real Football Factories International. I played Tommy Johnson in the film The Football Factory, which was all about football violence. Fucking nutters. Then I travelled the UK and met the real football firms. Now, I'm going international. 9 countries in 2 months. Around the hooligan world in 60 days. A whole new level of football violence. We'll be in riots. We'll get tear gassed, chased, and even shot at. It's going to be quite a trip. This week I'm in 2 countries that used to be part of one. 2 countries with a proud footballing history, whose clubs have some of the most fanatical followers in world football. Football hooligans who went from fighting each other on the terraces to fighting one another on the front line in a bloody civil war. George Orwell once said, "Football's like war minus the shooting." Well, this is the story of football with the shooting. This is the story of the football firms of Croatia and Serbia. I'm going to the former Yugoslavia, to these 2 countries to meet some of the most notorious firms in world football. 4 firms who only 15 years ago fought for their countries, Croatia and Serbia, in the civil war that broke up Yugoslavia. It was one of the bloodiest Europe had ever witnessed, and the scars are still here to see. But what's happening with the firms today? I want to find out who they're fighting against now and what they're fighting for.
I like when they beat each other. I like when they beat police. I think that's life, that's football.
It's the same feeling like a sex with 2 girls.
In Serbia, I'll be in Belgrade, the city shared by the heroes of Red Star and the gravediggers of Partizan. And in Croatia, I'm going to the capital city Zagreb to meet the bad blue boys of Dinamo Zagreb.
Golden room to fight for that club.
I'll be at their stadium, the scene of a football riot that for many was the real start of the civil war in former Yugoslavia. I'm starting my journey in Croatia, in the city of Split, because this is home to the oldest organised firm in Europe. Split is Croatia's 2nd largest city. It's a hidden gem on the Adriatic coast.
Beautiful.
It seemed like the last place to be looking for international football hooligans. I was confused. I thought I'd walked into the wrong series. I felt like Judith Chalmers.
It seems very calm, nice people, a lot of old people. A lot of ladies, a lot of young ladies. I'm not getting no element of violence. I know it's here and I know it's rife. You wouldn't think it to walk around the city.
But don't be deceived by the picture postcard setting.
I'm here to see the dark side.
This is home to Hajduk Split and their infamous firm, the Torcida.
Almost every game there's fighting. A lot of fans from other clubs don't have the courage to come to Split. When we go to other towns, there's almost always problems.
The 22-year-old Jera is the latest generation of the Torcida. And wherever they go, he's there.
If something happens, I'll be there, I won't run away. It's the same as going out on a Saturday night, you know, if someone attacks your mates, of course you're gonna jump in.
And it all kicked off over half a century ago.
1950. And that's a proper firm. Established 1950.
The more I saw of the city, the more it became clear that Torcida is the heartbeat of Split.
Graffiti like this is everywhere. I mean, it is just absolutely all over the gaff.
They've even got their name on the street lamps.
Not a lot of people know this about me, but I'm fluent in Croatian. So this says, if I had 2 lives, I'd give them both to you. That says to me passion, you know what I mean? That's a proper little motto, that is.
And that passion's going to be needed, because Split is gearing up for the biggest game of the season. Their big rivals, Dinamo Zagreb, are in town for the derby of Croatia.
We can make some troubles in Split.
A match where fireworks are guaranteed. And in part 2, we'll be in the thick of it. I'm in Split in Croatia, home of the Torcida, the firm of Hajduk Split. And I'm here for the big Croatian derby against their bitter rivals, Dinamo Zagreb. The Torcida are a firm with a fair bit of previous. 1961, referee attacked after disallowing a Hajduk goal. 1974, fought the Yugoslav army evacuated from the stadium. 1988, banned from European competition for 3 years after rioting in Marseille. 1990, pitch invasion and attempt to attack Partizan Belgrade's players. And then there's the noughties and the cup final riots of 2000 and 2001 against guess who? Dinamo Zagreb. And the latest incident occurred just 2 days before I arrived. Torcida members were among the 183 arrested in Zagreb for causing trouble at Croatia versus England. But it wasn't the English they were fighting. Yet again, they were fighting Dinamo Zagreb.
A lot of them have been nicked. A lot of them fresh out of the shovel this morning. So, I don't know what I'm walking into. Maybe a bit ratty. I'm chuffed they're still going to speak to me, you know what I mean? I know none of them have slept. I know that the police don't treat them well here. You know what I mean? It's not like they're in a 5-star nick. Let's go and see what they've got to say.
Just a few hours after he'd been released from the nick, Yera from the Torcida was going to give me the lowdown.
How do the police treat you here?
Not very well.
No?
They treat us like second-rate citizens, and with the new laws coming in, they have authorities to limit our freedom of movement. They can nick us for almost anything. They beat the shit out if they catch you.
One of the biggest battles between the Torcida and the police happened at the cup final in Split in 2001. The Torcida broke out of their north end and spilt onto the running track.
They regard us as a bunch of hooligans. We behave as we were treated.
Then they launched a massive attack on the old Bill.
That was probably the biggest battle that I've ever seen in my life.
But the police regrouped and forced the Torcida back into their stand. They wheeled out the water cannons to try and cool the situation down. But once the end was cleared, the Torcida headed into the city centre to continue the battle.
There was a mob of about 2,000 people fighting the police, and it went on for the entire afternoon.
The city and its police felt the force of the Torcida. And I thought the English firms didn't get on well with the old Bill.
What does this mean?
All cops are bastards.
All cops are bastards. Quite simple.
Unlike firms in England, the Torcida don't have to keep their nuts down. Their headquarters is bang in the middle of the town.
This is what I love, yeah? You want to find the Torcida.
But you can't just walk in off the street. This is their inner sanctum, and I was lucky enough to have an invite.
I'm loving the bar. Cool as fuck.
On the wall are hundreds of pictures of what are known as choreographies. The displays they organise with flags and flares. And there's the holiday snaps from their greatest away days.
This is probably the best away match that we ever had. It's us in Rome. There was 6,000 of us. We completely just invaded the city. We took over all their squares. We completely outvoiced them in the stadium. The best moment of my life. It makes my hair stand up.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So who can take the Torcida on? Who are the rivals for the crown of Croatia's toughest and proudest firm? It's the boys from the capital, the Bad Blue Boys, the firm of Dinamo Zagreb, and they're in town for the biggest game in the Croatian football calendar. Hajduk Split versus Dinamo Zagreb, one of the most explosive fixtures in the world.
Biggest rivals. In this moment, Torcida Split, absolutely.
An army of 2,000 Bad Blue Boys are heading to Split, and one of them is this man, Bogdan Urukalo.
We don't like them. We really don't like them. We can make some troubles in Split.
It's high noon in Split on match day, and the police are preparing for trouble. It's their job to keep the Torcida and the Bad Blue Boys apart. But the two firms have other ideas.
All my crew is now at the center, preparing for the game, waiting for guests.
We are also prepared for any kind of troubles.
The boys looking for the guys from Zagreb.
We are not afraid of that kind of conflict.
Is it going to go off like it did at the Cup final in 2000? One of the worst incidents in the history of European football. The Bad Blue Boys provoked the Torcida by throwing flares at normal Hajduk fans.
We burned 10-15 flares. We threw it on the ordinary people because we cannot reach the flare till Torcida. It's impossible, 200 meters, 150 meters. And then whole stadium became crazy, na na na. They were shouting and singing, "We will kill you, we will kill you."
Enraged, the Torcida went berserk and rushed round to the Dinamo end to try and break down the fence and get at the Bad Blue Boys. Chaos ensued as the police fired tear gas at the attacking fans, and the showpiece game of the Croatian season was abandoned. It was shocking even by Croatian standards, as more than 100 people were injured and 98 arrested.
It was a good incident. I was satisfied.
Back at the latest derby of Croatia, and there's still 2 hours till kickoff, and the tension's rising. Both firms are heading to the ground, and the police are out in force. As the Bad Blue Boys arrive at their end, the police are wary of any last-minute attempts at an ambush by the Torcida. Inside the ground, the crowd were coming to the boil. The riot police stand by as the two groups exchange pleasantries. Throughout the game, various missiles are thrown towards the pitch. Firemen struggle to cope with the constant barrage of flares. And when a fire is started in the Dinamo end and the police intervene, the lads from Zagreb dedicate a song to the other boys in blue. It's a totally different world out here. You just can't imagine this being allowed to happen at a game in England. For this kind of behaviour, they'd have all been pinched and banned. And while all that was going on, a football match took place, which had 3 penalties, 8 bookings, a sending off, and ended 2-2. But by the usual standards of this match, it was a quiet one. Not much trouble, just 30 tall Cedar and 9 bad blue boys arrested. Split was certainly an eye-opener. I couldn't believe that this peaceful place was home to such a violent firm. By now, the bad blue boys were back home in Zagreb, a couple of 100 miles north of Split. It's the capital of Croatia, and it was where I was off to next.
Now, the difference between Split and Zagreb is like 2 different countries, to be honest with you. I mean, very cosmopolitan, hustle, bustle, you know, chaos. You know, Split's like Marbella, it's chilled out, nice. You know, this is like what you'd expect from a capital, I suppose.
It was another beautiful city, but I wasn't here to see the sights. I was here to meet the firm who were formed over 20 years ago in 1986. And since then, they've been causing quite a stir.
Golden rule is to support team 90 minutes. And if it's necessary, to fight for that club.
Here they are fighting in Milan in 2000, where they went on a rampage against the Italian police.
Dinamo Zagreb is not a big European club. It's not a famous like some English or German clubs, but it's our glory.
This incident resulted in over 50 arrests and more than 50 injuries on both sides.
We are proud that we are supporters of Dinamo Zagreb.
So when it comes to letting the players know they're not happy, they don't bother moaning on a football phone-in. They believe actions speak louder than words.
A few times we smash their cars and we give them a few punches, you know, just for like a yellow card, you know.
So what happens when the players deserve a red card?
We decided to go to the training, 50 of us, masked, and we took off their shirts, pants, everything, because they didn't deserve a shirt of Dinamo Zagreb.
And when Croatian president Franjo Tuđman, who was also the club president, made the mistake of changing the name from Dinamo to Croatia Zagreb, they set fire to his director's box.
This has been burned in 1993, but some of our lads didn't know what to do because of the changing the name of the club. They burned all this. It was...
Eventually they got their way, and the name was changed back to Dinamo.
It was good.
Effectively, they run the club. And when I went to see them play, I got an idea of where their power comes from. Bogdan and the Bad Blue Boys agreed to allow me into their stand, but it had been touch and go for a while. Cameras weren't allowed onto the stand, so we could only film from pitch side. It was first versus third in the league, but what shocked me was how few people were there. The Bad Blue Boys had come out in force, but there was hardly anyone else in the stadium. And as for the Vartex fans, they might as well have come in a cab. I realised why the Bad Blue Boys have so much power. Despite their antics, the club needs them, because if they weren't there supporting the team, nobody would be.
I've never experienced nothing like it in the fact that constant singing.
For 90 minutes, Bogdan made sure everyone on the stand was in full voice.
Stands at the front with his back to the game, takes no notice, big old lumpy as and all. He's a naughty looking geezer. Starts the chant, I don't know what it is, it's power though, it's passion. And then he puts it down, pipes at everyone. Make sure everyone's singing. like that, takes everyone in. And if there ain't no one singing, he digs them out, he'll find them. Right mad mince pies, do you know what I mean? Like that, bosh. And the singing paid off, as Dinamo ended up 4-1 winners. The following morning I met up with Bogdan and we went back to the Maximir Stadium. For him, this place is much more than just a football ground.
It's our second home, you know. Really, when I come to this stand, I forgot on everything which is happening in my life.
So how often would you say, Bogdan, that there's trouble in Croatia, trouble with the Bad Blue Boys? Is it
In the 90s it was it was normal thing. Like you eat every day something. Every weekend we had problems. Every away match we had a fight with the police, with the other supporters.
Mostly police though, yeah?
Yes, mostly police, because we had a war with the president of the Croatia and the whole government. We were enemy number one and the whole police were chasing us.
So this was Croatia today. The Bad Blue Boys and the Torcida. Football firms fighting each other and the police, vying to be the #1 firm in the country. But the animosity here is nothing compared with the hatred that is felt for their neighbours in Serbia, because that is about more than just football. They used to share a country and then they went to war. And it was the firms who went to the front line.
I cannot tell you with the words what do I feel against them. They are our biggest enemies.
So stay with us, because later I'm going to find out about the football riot that was the start of a war.
Both sides had stockpiled rocks in the stadium beforehand so they could use them as weapons.
And I'll be travelling to Serbia and get to see the dark side of Belgrade. I was in Zagreb, Croatia, in a football ground which, although it may not look like much, witnessed an event in the history of football as significant as anything Wembley, the Nou Camp or the Maracanã has ever seen. In May 1990, the former Yugoslavia was on the brink of civil war. Nationalism within the two largest republics, Croatia and Serbia, was at an all-time high. As this political powder keg was about to explode, one of the biggest club matches of the Yugoslav football season took place between Dinamo Zagreb and Red Star Belgrade.
Hooliganism generally had been rising through the late 70s and 80s, as it had across Europe. But in Yugoslavia it had a nationalist element. Red Star were very much Serb nationalists. Dinamo Zagreb were the hardcore of the Croatian nationalists. The Red Star fans went up there with acid to burn down security fences. Both sides had stockpiled rocks in the stadium beforehand so they could use them as weapons. It was pre-arranged. Everybody knew it was going to go off.
And go off it did, as the Croats and the Serbs fought out a ferocious battle in an explosion of pent-up nationalism and hatred. This was not just Dinamo v Red Star, the Bad Blue Boys v Delia. This was Croatia v Serbia. Football photographer Toma Mihailovic has covered the game for over 50 years, and he was there that day.
Atmosphere was like we know that something is not good, but nobody was surprised because we were expecting sometimes to go up.
During the game, the Red Star fans started tearing up the seats in this end. The Bad Blue Boys of Zagreb, who were in this end here, tried to break down the fences to get to the Red Star.
They beat back the police, who, being mostly Serbs, came in for special attention from the Bad Blue Boys.
And it wasn't only fans who got involved. When a policeman attacked a Dynamo fan line on the ground, Dynamo's Croatian captain, Boban, decided to exact revenge.
Boban's kick was a symbolic moment. It was the beginning of the end for Yugoslavia.
For me, it was a sad day. It was a terrible day, and I was feeling that I'm losing something. I have to forget all friends and all the clubs and everybody, you know. And I'm feeling that is something we came to the end. And I was sorry about that.
And Tomo was right. As a year later, it wasn't punches and kicks that were being exchanged. It was gunfire and grenades, as Croatia and Serbia went to war. And the hooligans swapped their firms for their armies and signed up. The civil war raged for 4 years, with more than 15,000 people killed. And by the end, Croatia and Serbia were two separate countries. It was one of the most incredible stories I'd ever heard. Football hooliganism as a political event, one of the biggest moments in the history of two nations, the start of a war which is still fresh in the mind.
We hate them. I cannot tell you with the words what do I feel against them. You have in England firms and clubs who hate each other, but I really don't think so that you have such example.
And there's certainly nothing in England like the memorial for the members of the firm that died fighting for Croatia. A memorial that shows the riot, which they believe was the real start of the war.
This is a statue for our brave lads who have been killed in the war for our freedom, for freedom of our country. This is everything for us. This is like a church, you know. Every time we pass here, we make a little pray for our guys. It's a very, very, very emotional part of the stadium for us.
It's very powerful.
Yes.
The Bad Blue Boys weren't the only ones to die for their country. This is a memorial in Split, dedicated to the members of the Torcida, who made the ultimate sacrifice for Croatia. There were two sides to every story, and it was time to hear the other one. I was off to Serbia.
So I've been to Celtic Rangers. I've heard about Liverpool Man United. You know, I know about the West Ham Millwall rivalries, you know, but that's nothing compared to this. You know, we're talking about, you know, these guys went to war with each other. You know, we're not talking about a tear up in the street for 2 minutes. You know, we're not talking about ambushing a pub. We're not talking about having it off with the old bill. You know, we're talking about these guys signed up, got given guns, went to the front line. You know? It's like England going to war with Scotland, like proper war. You know, it's really, really hard to get your nut round it.
I was travelling on a road which in the days of Yugoslavia was called the Road of Brotherhood and Unity. But at the time of the Civil War, there was little of that on this particular route. This was the road which you would travel on to get to the front line. And just off this road, 20 miles before reaching the Serbian border, we stopped at the town of Vukovar, a town which was virtually destroyed during the war and still has the scars to prove it. In the pre-conflict days of former Yugoslavia, Croats and Serbs lived here together peacefully. But the war changed all that, as Vukovar became a microcosm of the conflict, with civilians paying a huge cost.
Absolute total devastation. Bullet holes everywhere. I mean, they've rebuilt a lot of it, but it's still battered. It's still like mullered.
By the end, almost nothing was left.
Sad though, sad.
It's estimated that 2,000 of Vukovar civilians were killed, 800 went missing, and 22,000 were forced into exile.
Just that element of death in the air and just, I dread to think what happened here, you know. Must have been horrendous.
crossed the border into Serbia, heading to the capital of Belgrade. I'd heard some mind-blowing stuff so far, and that was only half the story. What, I wonder, will be waiting for me there?
Everywhere we go, we fight with something or someone.
I like when they beat each other. I like when they beat police. I think that's life. That's football.
It's the same feeling like a sex with two girls. In Belgrade, no rules. It's no rules.
The first thing I noticed about Belgrade was how different it was from Split and Zagreb. It felt more Eastern European and had echoes of the old communist regime. Serbia also uses a different alphabet from Croatia.
In Croatia, sort of work it out a little bit, you know what I mean? Here is Cyrillic. Get on that there, I don't know if you can see that over there. I ain't got a clue what it means, you know what I mean? Could mean anything, I mean, it's like alien writing.
Belgrade is home to the two biggest teams in Serbia, Partizan and Red Star. Two clubs that are literally around the corner from each other. Partizan Belgrade's firm are called the Grobbery, which means grave diggers, whilst Red Star Belgrade's firm is the Delier, or the Heroes. Two firms who also went to fight in the war for their country, Serbia. It was the Delier of Red Star who were involved in the infamous riot of 1990 that is believed to have started the war. I'd come here to meet them because, like the firms in Croatia, they too had gone from the terrace to the front line. Some of them were led by this man. This is Arkan, seen here leading the players off the pitch during the 1990 riot. At the time, he was officially Red Star Belgrade's head of security. He also controlled the Delier. Petar Ilic used to be one of the Delier and travelled with them all over Europe. He experienced the charisma of Arkan firsthand.
Actually, he was our leader in 1989. He had his crew among himself, and the guy adored him. He was very brave, and that's the things which, you know, you must count on a brave man on terrace.
Arkan was a proud Serb, and when the civil war began, he set up a paramilitary group known as the Tigers. The group was established under the auspices of the Serb-controlled Yugoslav government. The Tigers had been recruited by Arkan from the Delier. After all, who better to enlist than hardcore Serbs with a history of violence?
Some like him very much, they choose to went to war with him. Those guys think that they are doing the right thing for Serbia, and probably that's why they went to fight.
I'd come to Belgrade to meet with the Delier, but they, it seemed, didn't want to meet me.
For the past 6 weeks, the production team have been trying to make contact with the current members of the Delier to hear their story. Problem is, they won't talk to us. They've spoken to British journalists before in the past, and they feel they've been dubbed as war criminals because of the association with Arkan.
Belgrade's other firm, though, were not as shy as their city rivals. The Grobbery, or grave diggers of Partizan Belgrade, were more than happy to welcome us and show us what they're like. 20-year-old Kimi first stood with the Grobbery when he was 14, and now he's about to stand trial for being involved in fighting at football. He's a member of a smaller group within the Grobbery called Alcatraz.
We are Alcatraz. We are part of Grobbery. We are the strongest group on South Tribune and probably on Balkan.
Every month, the Grobbery family get together for a party. There's food, drink, drugs, and karaoke. But it's not all fun and games, because this lot are armed and dangerous.
When we have weapons, we fight with weapons. We haven't weapons, we fight with no weapons.
The Grobbery are always up for it, especially when it comes to their neighbours, Red Star. There's always trouble, and today is Derby Day. It's Saturday, 1 p.m, and in the streets around Partisans Ground, fans are starting to arrive, although they may be slightly outnumbered by the old Bill. Johnny is one of the top boys of Alcatraz, and he and the lads are ready and waiting.
I don't care about the game. We don't search for results. We have our game. That's most important than the football.
Most important for us is Partizan. For us, football is life. We are fighting for the name Partizan and Grobbery.
By kick-off time, the huge police presence has so far been successful in keeping the fans apart. But that's no guarantee that the game will pass off without a serious incident. At this ground in 1999, a shipping flare was fired from the Grobbery end into the Deliere, killing Red Star fan Alexander Radovic. And in 2000, one of the most serious disturbances occurred at Red Star's ground, as hundreds of fans fought a pitched battle. In this riot, the Grobbery attacked one of their own directors, hospitalising him, whilst the Deliere attacked the partisan coach, slashing his face with a knife. But today, the game's passed off peacefully. In fact, there's not been much action at all. I had one last appointment in the former Yugoslavia. I was about to get up close and very personal with the Grobbery. Yeah, that's right, the mob with the shooters. I was bang in the middle of their manor, and needless to say, well off mine. I mean, this is the ghetto. Where I'm meeting them now, it's like their little betting shop. It's like a bar betting shop type place. Apparently they're all plotted outside. I think I can see them actually. Tell me a bit about, obviously, your relationship with Red Star.
Every time when we see them, there is a fight. It is no need to be a football match, basketball match, or any other match against these two clubs.
So you go to watch basketball?
Football is a very, no quality.
Okay.
So the basketball, we were many times champions of the world.
Okay.
And, yeah, and it's a better atmosphere.
So when it's not kicking off at the football, they go to basketball. Partizan and Red Star both have basketball teams. This is the derby from June 2006. Trouble started in the stands. The police stormed the Red Star fans section and several fans fell down a staircase. More than 100 fans were injured. How do you feel about the clubs from Croatia?
No, I don't know. They missed them. We missed them, especially our friend Žarko. We have a very strong erotic and sexual connection with them. Yeah.
This story they were about to tell me about one of their older guys, Jare, was both shocking and unbelievable.
Old guard.
In the late 80s, one of the top boys at Torcida came to Belgrade as a guest at the Grobbery.
After 5-4 drinks, he started to blabber.
But for shooting his mouth off, he had to pay a forfeit. They took him to the grave of a partisan legend and demanded that he kiss it.
Take him and he said, kiss the grave. I don't want. Okay, then.
But when he refused, Jare raped him.
You know, when you say to somebody, I'm gonna fuck you, he really mean it.
I'm not easily shocked, but I was now. These guys were prepared to commit the ultimate act of humiliation and domination over their rivals. It was time to leave. When we come back, we'll hear what might happen if there's ever a case of firms reunited.
Neka razmisle kako su prolazili u ranijim našim bliskim susretima.
I think that it would be plenty of dead people.
So what does the future hold for Croatia and Serbia? It's been almost 15 years since the end of the Civil War and the last significant footballing success of one of their clubs. The quality of football has deteriorated since the separation of the football leagues. Some have called for a unified league to increase competition and raise the standard of football to what it once was. But emotions still run higher. In the summer of 2003, Partizan Belgrade and Dinamo Zagreb met for a friendly in Switzerland that was anything but. Ironically, the Croatian parliament had passed a law the day before banning riots at sporting events. And over 150 Croat and Serb fans were thrown out of a tennis match in Melbourne after a mass brawl occurred at the 2007 Australian Tennis Open. So what would happen if the Croat and Serb football teams started playing one another again?
We hate so much these bastards that I think that it will be plenty of dead people.
I honestly don't know what would happen on that day, but I'm sure that it would be spectacular.
Hrvati neka mole Boga da ne bude ta liga, jer mi dalje nismo povukli.
It will be good, very good. More tension, more better football for sure. But fuck the football.
Mi smo spremni i dalje. Znači oni sami ne kažu jesu za to ili nisu.
Most rival firms hate each other, but then most rival firms haven't been to war. The memories and experiences of that war are still fresh. It was only 15 years ago, so I can understand why feelings of hatred remain. These feelings have brutalised the firms, and I don't think there's much hope this hatred will ever die. The party's nearly over, and there's time for one last song, but it's not got a lot to do with football.
To see webisodes of Real Football Factories International, log on to bravo.co.uk/Real Football Factories International to check out the shape of global hooliganism. After the break, though, Brits behind bars.